Hey everyone, this is Allison Kurak, and I am back with a new video for you guys today. And this is all about how to differentiate yourself as a transaction coordinator. Now, I think there is plenty of room to grow in the transaction coordinator community, and there are a lot of us, but I think the more we grow, it even just benefits the profession. We should have every agent using a TC on every transaction. Wouldn't that be a dream? But there is a little bit of competition, and there are other TCs in our market areas most of the time, so we want to figure out how are we differentiating ourselves to get the best clients, more clients, whatever your goals are. More just really, always be getting that 5-star review and working on your reputation and your referrals. So there's a couple ways you could differentiate yourself. Like, maybe you offer some services like marketing or other services other TCs in your market area aren't doing. Or maybe you work on a weekend, or you have a couple nights you work to kind of differentiate your working hours from other TCs. But for most people who want to offer standard contract close, standing listing services, and work more traditional business hours, how are we differentiating ourselves? Obviously, we're going to do the best job we can. But like I mentioned, there's competition, but also something important to note is that anybody who's been trained and has the right checklist and the right templates could do this job. The job in itself is not inherently difficult. If you think about it from an outside perspective, they just use this email template to input stuff here. Just check this, reach out to this person. But as we all know, if you have experience in real estate at all, every transaction is so different, and there's so many minute details and ways to handle different situations, most of which come from experience. But if you are a new TC, I don't want you to get discouraged watching this, because you can keep an eye out for these things that maybe other people take years to learn, but you're going to pick up on it much quicker. Like I said, there are so many details and things about transaction that we learn mostly from experience, but you also can learn just from paying close attention, that someone who's just copy and pasting the email templates, checklist, reach out to this person, checklist, reach out to that person. There's a lot of those, and we don't want to be one of those, because that's not how we differentiate ourselves, and that's not what's best for the client, and that's not what gets you a 5-star review. That's what gets you, this TC is good enough, they do my paperwork. If you're watching this, I'm imagining that's not how you want to be. So how do we differentiate ourselves when we're mostly doing the same task and working the same hours? Well, let me introduce you to my tip on this, which I like to call reading the room. Now, I kind of joke and use the parentheses because obviously we're not reading the room. We're usually not anywhere in person with any of these people. So we're really reading the tone of the transaction from emails, from the conversations we've had with our agent, from text, from just really picking up on little context clues and figuring how we can do our best, how this transaction differs from the rest. So what is an example of reading the room, you may ask? I guess I should say quotations, not parentheses. Well, an example may be on your checklist, or the standard TC checklist. Through 2 days after we went under contract, I reviewed the contract. Okay, wait. Other side didn't initial one item, or we're missing one signature from them, or something that's not urgent. But then I notice, maybe if I'm a regular TC who's not reading the room, I just send out my email, hi other agent, I'm missing the signature, please return. But I've noticed that we had the inspection the same day we went under contract. And from the communication I can see between the agents, or between the agent and the client, things aren't going well here. Negotiations are tough. People have strong emotions during them. The other agent and this agent could be having a hard time communicating while trying to best represent their client, just not able to come to a resolution. One client could be asking for way too much, and the other client could be offended, and the agents are having to be the middle people. So it's maybe I'm reading the room. Okay, we are going to have a resolution on this by tomorrow, or maybe everyone will sleep on it and be in a better mood tomorrow. Maybe I can wait a day, a couple hours before I reach out about this missing initial or something like that is non-urgent, if you get what I'm saying. So really picking up on clues, is this the best time to ask for this necessarily? I think that can make a huge difference in a TC who kind of knows what they're talking about versus a copy and paste TC, if you know what I mean. Also on this reading the room is picking up other little context clues. So sometimes maybe I'll email a seller, congratulations on your new contract. And then they'll say, okay, great. Just tell us, we're doing this, because, or like, seller one and I are in Minnesota and we're in Texas, the house is in Texas. You could be like, okay, whatever. Copy and paste TC might just say, okay, great, something. Just maybe they mention that in a different conversation in some aspect. Read the room TC, we're gonna go, okay, wait, are they gonna be in Minnesota for the closing? Because then we might need to have documents a day early. We need to make sure the title company and the lender, if there is one, are aware that the seller is out of state, because that can make differences for closing. Every title company and every lender is a little different. If they require, hard docs that are FedExed, or if we can scan them in. Do we need to move the closing around? Or is one seller going to be here moving out and the other one's not, and we're going to do a power of attorney, or whatever the case may be. Picking up, maybe they say it completely innocently in a text conversation, like, oh yeah, weather's great this time of year, like in Minnesota or something. Then picking up, okay, wait, what's that gonna mean for the transaction? It could also be something like, the seller waits to get something back from you and like, sorry, I was, at the hospital all day. Or so, someone who's a doctor or a nurse or with a really tight schedule, it can be hard for them to make it to the title company during those traditional hours. So do we need to set up a notary for them? Do we need to kind of make some other arrangements? So really just picking up on little context clues about the clients on either side and thinking, okay, wait, how is this going to affect the transaction? So I think that's something you can really pay attention to up front too. Okay, and then lastly with reading the room, I want to talk about really prioritizing certain tasks. I think I preach a lot about priorities and prioritizing and structuring your day, but I also preach a lot about kind of having boundaries about, okay, I'm putting my emails away for 45 minutes so I can work on this listing or something, and really not trying to just live in your email notifications all day, because that's how you end the day feeling unfulfilled and unaccomplished. But I think it's important to notice when things are important. So maybe it's 3 o'clock and we have a closing the next day, and I'm waiting on something really important. But I haven't heard anything back. I just did a follow-up a couple hours ago. I'm not going to just sit there and call people every single hour. So I'm kind of working on something else. But then maybe because I know I'm waiting on something that's actually really important, maybe I'll set my phone on the desk next to my keyboard. And if I see something from that agent, that client, that title company, that lender, whatever I'm working on, or maybe I'll have my email up, you could filter it down to just include the agent's email. So if something pops up from them or from whoever you're waiting it on, that way you're not seeing everything, then like, okay, the minute this comes through, I'm going to respond. So knowing what's critical, reading the room. Okay, yeah, maybe, I checked on it this morning, but now I'm in one of my time blocks. But if you're really waiting on something, like we have a deadline at 5, or we have a closing tomorrow, or just a general actual crisis of some kind, being able to read the room and say, okay, this is actually so important that I need to keep my notification up in some way, and the minute it comes through, I need to drop everything else for a moment until this is handled. So I think those are a couple examples, and I'd love to hear if you guys can think of more, but really just getting the tone of the transaction. Like if everything's going great, maybe you notice like, okay, wait, we're not supposed to close for 3 weeks, but we already got the appraisal back, and like lender says we'll have clear to close in a few days, and the house is vacant. So maybe the closing's gonna get moved up. Sometimes things are going really well. And so you think, you know what? I'll ask the agent about this next time I speak with them, but maybe I'll go ahead and move the date up on my checklist just so that I make sure I have my compliance approved and make sure I'm reaching about the closing maybe a little early, or some other items. That way you're moving up and it's not like, wait, I had the closing date 3 weeks out, and then so it didn't tell me to do all these tasks until like 2 weeks from now, but now we've moved the date and I've got to do them all tomorrow. So that can be kind of reading the room in a good way. Like I said, reading the tone if things aren't going well, or maybe it's like, okay, we're supposed to close on the 17th and lender said appraisals coming in on the 16th. Like, we'll see if they can turn that around, but maybe that's something you want to bring to the agent's attention. Hey, I saw that in the email, so that just might be something we want to push on or be aware of that when we push the closing back. So just kind of reading the tone, seeing what's going on, and picking up on extra details. And instead of just notating, what I like to call a copy and paste TC might do is, okay, appraisal's due the 16th, I'll check on it then. And what we're gonna do, reading the room TCs, we're gonna say, wait, we're supposed to close the next day. How is that gonna work? And the agent maybe had a conversation about it with the other agent and they're gonna extend if they need to, but we wanna make sure we're aware of that as well. So, and then also just reading the room on if something truly is urgent and we need to prioritize it and making that a priority. So that is my biggest tip to differentiate yourself. Obviously, a lot of that comes with experience, but like I said, even if you're new, you can pick up on these details. You can pick up on the tone of the transaction. You can pick up on little details like the dates aren't matching up, or something doesn't look right, or someone says they're out of town, or someone says something about this. And so I really, really highly recommend it. Is about this checklist, but it's also about the tone and the communication of the transaction and how that affects the checklist. So I really think that is how we can differentiate ourselves, using our experience, using our knowledge, but also really just using our critical eye, even if we're new, when we're looking at every situation and thinking, okay, I've seen this before, or I've never seen this before. What is this gonna mean? And we can always escalate it to the agent if we need to, but really just being aware of the transaction as a whole instead of just our check. We're only doing our checklist, but we're aware of the transaction as a whole and how it's going. So it's almost like its own ecosystem, and we want to know we are part of it, but we want to know about all the other parts of it because that affects everything. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. Like I said, there are a lot of TCs out there. I always think there's room for growth in our industry, and I love seeing people comment on my videos who are new TCs or who are changing their career path because I think it's a great career and opportunity for everyone. So I'd love to hear some ways you guys try to differentiate yourselves below, as we can always learn and grow. And as always, if you like this content, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks everyone. Have an amazing day.